Preloaders, V.I.Preloaders, welcome back to the channel, guys. Always a pleasure to have you guys here with me, and you notice by now, or at least you should. All right, guys, so in this video, when I was out at homecoming with Harley Davidson, working with the Harley Davidson police fleet guys and doing demonstrations, I did a video on that, and I said in that video that I'm not going to be able to record the demonstrations that I'm doing because, you know, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. But what I decided to do is just set my camera up a little bit away from what I was doing and just let it record. I put a microphone on so you can hear what I'm saying. And so I want to share that with you guys. Of course, the video is not going to be as great as far as the camera being close enough to me to see what I'm doing. But you can hear what I'm saying, and I just wanted to give you guys a little glimpse of at least one of the demonstrations that I did, because I did 6 of them. All right, guys? So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something out of it. All right, guys, so sit back, watch it. It's not a lot of editing. There's no chapters in it. I did put cards on it if you're watching it on a computer or a smart device, so you can kind of jump to certain videos that I'm referring to. All right, guys, so before you get to see that video, intro. Keep it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded, keep it loaded. Very nice, I'm looking at the camera. Very nice, good, good, good. Testing, testing, testing.
Sounds good.
Wait, sounds good, right? Yeah. All right. You guys ride motorcycles, or are you just here for the show?
Give 2 years. 2 years.
Give you 2 years?
Until I can afford one.
Okay. How about you?
I wish the girl won't let me though.
The job tells us no.
Either.
Who won't let you?
My girlfriend.
Your
Oh,
girlfriend?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, shit.
She's got to get promoted to wife before she can start telling you what you can and cannot do.
But no.
And you do the promotion, so. You know what? I want to show you guys something. Well, you guys don't ride.
We don't know. We don't know.
All right. So, did you see how these guys showed you how to pick up a bike? Okay. There's another way to do it. And like everything else, you know, it's good to have options out there. And this way, actually, for me, works better because I don't have to use all of this stuff. So, of course, make sure the bike's off. I don't grab the front brake, but I make sure the bike's in gear because I don't want the bike moving while I'm trying to pick it up. Doesn't matter what gear it's in, as long as it's not in neutral. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is, and you have to do all of this simultaneous. Left hand on the right grip if the bike is falling on this side. Right hand on the left grip. Face the motorcycle. Keep your feet sort of close together. This is not about trying to muscle the bike. This is leverage. I'm going to keep this back leg straight. I'm going to push with my left hand, pull with my right hand, and step into the bike. You do it all simultaneous. 1, 2, 3. Front brake. Straighten out. Just another way. That's not mine. I learned that from the Aruba police. I was watching a video. And it was an old video too, so clearly they've been doing it forever. All right, I'm just gonna ride this bike around, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have a conversation with you guys about some stuff. All right. Ugh. Good afternoon. All four of yous. That's New York talk. Four of yous. My name's Robert Simmons. I'm a retired NYPD Highway Patrol motorcycle lieutenant. And I want to thank Harley Davidson for teaming up with me for this. I have a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. So this is a perfect segue from what these guys were doing to what I want to talk to you guys about. Because what they're doing, yeah, it's always going to get a lot of attention, especially in this country. Because most motorcycle riders, 98%, and that number might be low, 98% of motorcycle riders really don't know how to ride a motorcycle. They know how to sit on the motorcycle, and once it gets to a certain speed, then they're comfortable. You know why they're comfortable? Because nothing is required from them once the bike is moving. That's why you see people when the bike is stopping, you see feet come out while the bike is still moving, and then you see the last few feet, a little bit of walking, an abrupt stop, and then when the bike's taking off, you'll see feet out, I call it the landing gear, until the speed makes them feel comfortable, and then they can pick their feet up. So anytime you see that, I want you to know that's a clear indication they don't know how to operate a motorcycle properly. So what these guys are doing in here is an extreme version of what I'm going to talk to you guys about. And when I say extreme, it is and it isn't. Because the basic fundamentals of riding a motorcycle, and what I'm going to talk to you guys about, this is where it starts. And that's all they're doing. And no matter who talks to you about slow speed maneuvers on the motorcycle, the rules don't change. Throttle, clutch, rear brake, head and eyes. It's always the same. It's just a matter of executing them. So just know the one thing that's standing in our way, because this is not rocket science. I don't care, you could be the dumbest person on earth and be excellent at this. This is about motor skills, and it's about reprogramming our hardwiring. Because everything that we need to do on these bikes when we're moving slow is the opposite of our instincts, period. You feel falling, your instinct is to put your foot out, which is the wrong thing to do, especially on a bike this big and heavy, because that's how we get hurt. Trust me, I know. Almost broke my ankle. Because when you put your foot down on a bike like this, if it's falling, as my foot hits the ground, the bike is still moving forward, my foot's gonna travel. And it's traveling to the back where hard stuff is. And I can guarantee you, if your foot gets caught between that, that's not gonna end well for you. All right, so my channel is based on positivity. Everything's positive on my YouTube channel. I do practice sessions. And when I say practice sessions, it's people of all skill levels. Now, if I just did a video with me on the motorcycle, you know, after a while, people are going to check out because they're going to say, all right, he was a motor officer. That's why he's so good at that. And so that's why I don't mention police motor skills in any titles that I put out, because most people won't even click on it. It's not about a police motor skill. Yes, they train us to ride like this. But if you go to Europe, this is how they train, right? You know how long it takes to get a motorcycle endorsement in this country? 3 days. And that's if somebody decides to do it. I'm sure all of us know somebody that's been riding on a permit for decades, or not even a permit, because they're scared to take that MSF course. That MSF course is ridiculously easy. But you do these basic fundamentals, these basic techniques to get over the fears and intimidation, because that's the barrier, the fear and intimidation, that and I don't want to drop my motorcycle. Who here, do you ride a motorcycle? What do you ride?
16 Ultra Limited.
A 16 Ultra Limited. Who's this young lady?
That's my wife.
Do you ride on the bike with him? Why not?
Don't want to.
You just don't want to. Is that the only reason? You care to elaborate?
No, I just never have wanted to. So.
Gotcha. You ride?
Yes, sir.
What do you ride?
19 Road Ride.
What do you ride? The Road Glide?
Yes, sir.
You ride on the back? Okay. If you had to give yourself a rating 1 to 10, well, rephrase. How long have you been riding a motorcycle?
2003.
Since
20
2003?
years.
How long have you been riding a motorcycle?
Since like 1975.
Since 1975? Shh, I was 3 years old.
Make it a 10.
Okay, how long you been practicing slow? I'm sorry, you guys ride? What do you ride? A Softail Deluxe? How long you been riding a motorcycle? Years? Well, 2 is years. 20? Okay. How long you been practicing slow speed riding?
I just did it in the class. I don't really.
You just did it in the class. Now listen, I got a law enforcement background, so words matter to me. I just did it in the class. What class and when?
The Harley Davidson thing.
When was that?
Like 6 years.
6 years ago. How often do you practice slow speed maneuvers?
Once a month in summer. We have like the MSF course part painted in our parking lot. So
Gotcha. How about you?
like this. I took the advanced riding skills from the Harley Davidson Academy
Okay.
last summer, but
Okay.
I've been practicing slow stuff for maybe 3-4 years.
Okay, good. So whenever I ask people these questions, and by the way, in my practice sessions, I interview each person. What's your name? Where you're from? What kind of motorcycle do you ride? How long you've been riding? And then that third question, fourth question actually, how long you've been practicing? It's really the only question I care about. This is such a perishable skill. You can't do this once a year, once a month. You just can't. Because what we're trying to do is a few things. A, we're trying to get confidence, right? You're not going to get the confidence if you don't really put the work in. It's that simple. There's nothing on earth that you're going to get a lot out of without a lot of time put in. Secondly, we're trying to build muscle memory. Third, we're trying to break bad habits and instincts. Bad habits and instincts. Two things that are they're not easy to overcome, but you can do it with time and practice, but you have to be consistent. Okay, so then when people go, okay, but what do I practice? I do private lessons as well. By the way, I'm sorry guys, I'm from New York, but I now live in Georgia. And so I do practice sessions and private lessons there, but I also travel. This was actually supposed to be a practice session, but we couldn't get it together logistically, so I'm doing some demonstrations. But next year when I come back to Milwaukee, yeah, I definitely want to do a practice session because a few people already asked. And so when I have a private lesson, I'll always ask, what do you need help with? Something specific or everything in general, slow speed? And most people will tell me, Rob, just help me with U-turns. That's all I need. Do you like making U-turns?
Yeah, I actually do.
Do you? No? Do you? No? You guys ride? You ride? Come over here. What? You in the cheap seats. You can do only good seats here. Most people don't like making U-turns. I get it. But what I explain to them is, okay, great. We're going to work on those U-turns, but we're not starting with the U-turns. Problem is people are putting the cart before the horse. Not knowingly. You don't know what you don't know. And so the person that comes out to a practice session with me, it's humbling. It's very humbling because you could think you know what you're doing because you've been riding for so long and nothing's ever happened. But that's just life. If the majority of the time I'm doing something and I never had an incident, why would I think I need to change or improve on anything, right? But that's where the positivity of my channel comes in, because if you come out there and you do get humbled, because I ask everybody to give themselves a rating 1 to 10, slow speed. If you've never practiced like this, you really don't know how to rate yourself. So I rate myself a 9. These guys are like almost a 10. It's not about who's better than whoever, because what I say all the time, it's not about being the best, it's about being the boss. And be the boss of your motorcycle, that's what the name of my channel implies. Most people, when they slow down, that motorcycle is the boss. They are completely intimidated by the motorcycle. And where are bosses created? In the parking lot. So I say it all the time. Everybody wants to buy a motorcycle, just get married. No, you got to date it first. And the dating ground is the parking lot with some cones, right? And we don't have to worry about doing anything like this. Everything in here, this is extreme, right? I want you to know that. And when I do my practice sessions, I don't set anything up. It's not a competition out there, right? It's just to be comfortable. I just want you guys to be comfortable making a U-turn. Short story before I keep continuing. Because again, you don't know what you don't know. And when the time comes up and those skills are needed, if they're not there, but that's why motorcycle riders are always blaming other people for accidents. Because in their mind, we're always dealing with a tool belt. How many tools do you have in your tool belt? That tool belt is not for a nice country ride. That tool belt is for an oh shit moment. And when that moment happens, your options are based on your skill level. Now your options are based on your skill level, whether it's a uh-oh moment or even something simple. We were on a ride in Tennessee. This was last month. About 150 of us, group ride. I'm gonna talk to you about group rides too, they're terrifying. We're on a country road. A country road is usually 24 feet wide. So that's my minimum for a U-turn. If you could do less than that, great. But if you're wider than that, we got work to do. Right? Not a lot of work, it's really not a lot. So, and the road is canted. Now, of course, I look at these things and it doesn't matter to me because I know as long as I have these basic fundamentals, the rules don't change. Who here rides 2 up? You ride 2 up. The rules don't change, right? If he's making a turn and he's looking left, what should you be doing? He's leaning. What are you doing? Negative. Don't lean with him. You are luggage. Just sit still. And I say that because if you lean with him and he's coming out of the lean, but you're still leaning, you're gonna kind of throw him off. So it's best that you stay neutral. All you need to do is turn your head and your eyes with him. That's just to show you're involved. Now I know in the real world, the person on the back sometimes is like this or like this. But that's usually on a highway. So I say this all the time. This is the only vehicle in existence that our heart rates go up the slower we go, right? Listen, I remember working a vice presidential detail on the motorcycle, riding, the highway was closed. I remember I dozed off. You know when I've never dozed off? Making a U-turn. Because all of our antennas go up, it's all on us. So I told you 98% of motorcycle riders really don't know how to ride a motorcycle, right? Most motorcycle accidents happen at slow speeds. It's not a coincidence, right? So let's talk about it. What keeps this motorcycle up at slow speeds? You got the most riding time, so I'm coming to you.
Okay.
What keeps the motorcycle upright at slow speeds?
At slow speed?
Yeah. He said throttle. Anybody else have an answer other than throttle?
I would say balance.
You would say balance.
Friction between the tire and
Well,
That's keeping it up. What's keeping it from falling?
I'll say the friction zone.
Flywheel and the rider.
I like that answer. First, let me ask this. I meant to ask this the last time I did this a couple of hours ago. Is anybody here subscribed to my YouTube channel? You are. Well, you watch. You're familiar. Okay, good. So I'm not going to ask you any questions. Well, I might because sometimes we don't all learn the same. So here's the answer I'm looking for. What keeps your motorcycle, and by your motorcycle, I mean any type of motorcycle you ride, the rules don't change. Sufficient power to the rear wheel. Sufficient power. And why do I use the word sufficient? If my bike is upright and it starts to fall, I already have my throttle loaded. We're going to talk about that. If I open my hand this much, that's sufficient. If I wait until the motorcycle is over this much and open my hand the same amount, it's no longer sufficient. It's still going to fall. So the first thing I want to convey to you guys is when you're riding your motorcycle at slow speeds, as long as you have sufficient power on that rear wheel, it will not fall. I'm guaranteeing you that. I usually say, oh, your money back, but you guys are not paying for this. I guarantee it won't fall. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the sufficient power. We already talked about what keeps the bike up at slow speeds. Sufficient power to the rear wheel. I got to stop saying to the rear wheel. It's not going to be to the front wheel. All right, anyway. What does the motorcycle want to do with sufficient power to the rear wheel? What is it designed to do? Stand up and go straight. Let's remember these answers, because when I do my practice sessions and when I talk to motorcycle riders in general, if I gave people a written test, a lot of them would score high. But when we got to go apply it, it's a different story. That's what I mean when I say you have to practice, period. Okay, so sufficient power to the rear wheel keeps the bike up. And also, anytime you have that power, your bike always wants to stand up and go straight. And it's the main reason why I tell people slow speed maneuvers, I don't need to practice in cones. This is stupid. These skills carry over to higher speeds too. What's the number one way we're dying on motorcycles? Running wide in turns. And why are we running wide in turns? Because motorcycle riders, whenever they feel that uh-oh moment, the answer is always speed. Speed is always going to make us feel better because it's taking over. But we don't want the motorcycle to take over. We want to be the boss. So we need power, not speed. That's where the friction zone comes in. I don't need a whole lot of power, a little bit of power. And everything that we're doing in here and everything that you see these guys doing, it's all small fractions of movements. When I see somebody's hand doing this on their clutch, their bike is doing this, right? It's too much movement. And what they're really doing is, when they don't need the power, they're pulling the clutch all the way to the grip. And then when they need the power, they're trying to search back for it. And this is wasting time, especially if the bike's falling and you're trying to find where that power starts. So that's why I tell people, you can pull it to the grip, but when you open it up, you feel the bike move a little bit, pull it back right there. That's where you live now for any slow speed maneuvers that you're gonna do. And then if you ever feel, oh crap, boom, it's quick, you're right there, all right? All right, so we talked about what keeps the bike up. We talked about what it wants to do with power to the rear wheel. What does it want to do with insufficient power to the rear wheel? That's right, it wants to fall. And that's the biggest concern. I don't want to drop my motorcycle. It happens, right? That's how we get better. So people that don't want to take this challenge and ride their bike, the logic here, everything in this country is backwards, right? The way we think, the way we prioritize safety on the motorcycles. Now we're in a state right now that doesn't require a helmet. And I've been looking at people riding helmets all last 2 days on the highway, not a concern in the world. And that's fine. And when people, I've gotten comments in the comment section because I don't require people to wear a helmet to practice with me. I've had people tell me I'm not gonna practice because you're making me wear a helmet. I'm an excuse eliminator. So I just want you to practice. You sign a waiver, we're all adults, we know the risks that we take, but keep this in mind. Anytime we get on one of these motorcycles, we're taking a risk. Yep. The risk is higher when you really don't know what you're doing. And I already said you don't know what you don't know. Okay, you mentioned balance. How relevant is your balance as far as keeping the motorcycle upright? How relevant is your balance? 100 being a lot, 0 being none, 50's in the middle. Slow speeds.
Probably 50.
50?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it.
I'll come back to you.
35.
I'll come, 25.
20.
25.
30.
30. Did I ask you already?
25.
25? All right, I'm coming back to you. I'll come back. 15, 20. How about you, dear?
I'm sorry.
Come on, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
How relevant is your balance to keep your motorcycle upright at slow speeds? 50 be in the middle, 100 the most, 0 the least. 0, none.
Yeah, pretty high.
Pretty high. How about you, buddy? 0? You watch my channel? Yeah, see, I told you, it's 0. We already talked about what keeps the motorcycle up at slow speeds. We said sufficient power. We didn't mention our balance. And so these are misconceptions that we have to talk about. And because once we get it in our head, it's easier for us to absorb information. Okay, so with that being said, if I'm riding very slowly in the friction zone, my balance is not really relevant because what I'm doing is I'm using power to the rear wheel to keep that bike. I'm going to show you guys in a second, okay? 5 steps I tell everybody to do before they move their motorcycle. Step number 1, make sure the motorcycle's in first gear. Boop, nice and easy. Come across. Step number 2, cover the rear brake. Cover the rear brake just means you're going to rest your foot on the brake pedal. Why are we doing that? Because everything that we do on the motorcycle, we have to be smooth, graceful. So I call it slow dancing with the bike. I'll put a video out of me with my bike and some slow music playing. I'm slow dancing with my motorcycle. So you ride 2 up. If she's on the back of the bike and you're going 60 miles per hour, she shifts her weight. Is it a big deal? No, it's not. 60 miles per hour, no big deal. Everything is straight at that speed. But if you're going 5 miles per hour when she does that, oh yeah, you're gonna feel that. So everything is exaggerated the slower we're going. This is why people don't like riding slow, because it takes you out of, it doesn't feel good, right? But it doesn't feel good because you don't know what to do with that feeling. And I tell people all the time, when I first started flying in an airplane, every time the plane would take off and it does that little dip, I never forget this. I was panicking. In my mind, I'm thinking we're going down. And I look across and there's a lady reading the paper. She's got her leg crossed. And I'm looking around, I'm like, am I the only idiot thinking we're about to die? Then I learned that that feeling is normal. So now when I fly, the plane is still doing that, but now my brain knows it's normal, so it doesn't affect me. That's where we got to get you on this motorcycle, to get past that uh-oh feeling of falling. So whenever you feel uh-oh, what's the answer? Clutch. So we cover the rear brake because if we need to use it, and you will be needing to use it when you're doing slow speed maneuvers, we're more inclined to provide gentle pressure on it. Gentle. Shouldn't be doing anything like this or But I get when you're learning how to do this, it's hard to be gentle. So if stuff is going to be a little herky-jerky, that's fine, that's expected. That's why we cover the rear brake. So if we need it, we're right there. Easy pressure. Step number 3, preload that throttle and keep it loaded. Preload is the term I came up with because I realized that the terminology that's been used for years, a lot of people can sit through a whole class and walk out of there and they're still lost, like I don't get it, right? But preload is just getting your RPMs elevated. What's gonna happen to your motorcycle? No, I'm not gonna ask you. What's gonna happen to your motorcycle if you open up the clutch without any throttle from a stop?
Without any throttle?
Yeah.
It'll die. Stall.
It's going to stall, exactly. So that's why we preload it. Now the preload, Robert, how many RPM should I preload to? It depends, every bike is different, but if you're riding the Harley, I'd rather you be at about 2,000. And the reason I want it that high is as soon as you start to open your clutch, it's going to go down anyway. Your motorcycle is asking for power. It's going to draw that power from that preload. So I tell people all the time, if you give me a half-ass preload, you still might stall, right? The good thing about a Harley Davidson, if you're aware of it, is it's always telling you if I need more power. It's telling you the way it sounds, blah, 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 blah. Or if it's shaking like crazy. Everybody, oh, Harleys shake all the time. Harleys shake a lot at idle. But as soon, if I just go right there and start it up in neutral, it's going to be like this. As soon as I roll on the throttle, it smooths out. So that smoothing out, that's keeping it loaded. So we're not going to just preload the throttle. We're going to keep it there. So I want you to listen to the sound, and your goal is to keep that sound elevated. Now, if you're riding a K-Series BMW, a motorcycle like that, those motorcycles have a high, smooth idle. So they can go through slow speed maneuvers at idle, and they'll be fine. It's high and it's smooth. Harleys don't idle like that. Bloop, 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 bloop. So I say I want you to pretend your motorcycle is on an EKG machine. I want a flat line. Not from you, from the motorcycle, right? That's what I want, as close as possible. You're always listening to it, because that's your lifeline. And the first things we do everything going straight. No turning, no leaning, because we got to get that stuff straightened out while we're still going straight. If I stall going straight, no big deal. If I stall while I'm turning, it's still not a big deal here, but you know, we don't want to drop the bike unnecessarily. But dropping the motorcycle, hard for the course. Engine guards, saddlebag guards, it's protected, right? Even if something gets scratched, trust me, you're going to be better for it as long as you know why you dropped it. So I want you to picture this. You drop a motorcycle. Every time somebody drops a motorcycle, I ask them, what happened? I don't know. Those are the people we got to talk to quick. Because if you don't know why something happened, the chances of you repeating it are high. Also, it's going to take a bigger hit on your confidence, especially if you got injured. Because now it's almost like a PTSD thing. Every time something like that comes up again, you remember what happened, but you still don't know why it happened. So I'm going to make that very easy for you. If the motorcycle drops at slow speeds, it's one of two things. 95% of the time, your throttle's too low. So the bike stalled. So that's why we got to get that together right here. Because every time I'm dealing with somebody that's barely giving me preload, when we get to turns, that's when it's affected. They're making a turn, I hear the bike going, glut, 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 glut. And then it falls. And then the other thing is our instinct. When we get oh crap moments, this is what we do. Pull the clutch in. Now you're taking away the only thing that's keeping the bike up, right? So step number 3, preload that throttle and keep it loaded. Step number 4, we're going to slowly release the clutch into the friction zone. And then step number 5, as soon as the bike starts to move, pick this foot up vertically, not this, because I see that all the time. As soon as it starts to move, we don't need our feet. And that's why this is the biggest concern. Oh, I'm a short rider. I can't get both my feet flat on the ground, so I'm going to ruin this motorcycle by lowering the suspension. No. What do I tell them? I say, take one foot, put it on the brake. Just by doing that, it leans the bike a little bit. Now you got all this foot on the ground. But what they're thinking about is, I need these things to keep this bike up while I'm riding slow. No, you don't. We just need power. Okay. So we know we don't need balance. Now, if I bring the motorcycle to a complete stop, in that moment, now my balance is relevant. But as soon as it starts moving, not relevant anymore. When people come to me and they talk to me about these U-turns, and I tell them we're going to start from the beginning, the first thing I start them out with, smooth, short, starts and stops of the motorcycle. Now, when I first started doing this, I didn't have this as part of my program, because in my mind, everybody knows how to stop a motorcycle. But if I think about that, no, that's clearly not true, because the slowest you will ever go is the end of a stop. And that's when you start feeling the handlebars doing this. So most motorcycle riders, as soon as you feel that, time to stop. Front brake, feet out. By the way, you touch the front brake in my practice sessions, 10 push-up penalty. Voluntary, they're voluntary. It's just, again, we need accountability. And putting feet down. If you feel like the motorcycle's gonna fall and you put your foot down, that's 10. If you go to take off, I see this all the time. They're going to move, tap, 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 10, 20, 30. Like we gotta get people to know we don't need our feet. Trust and believe. All we need is the clutch. So if I know before I move this motorcycle, like for instance, full disclosure, again, shout out to Harley Davidson for hooking me up with these fine gentlemen. They say, hey, you can use our motorcycle. I never rode that motorcycle a day in my life. So whenever I get on somebody's motorcycle for the first time, what do? I start it up, of course. I go right to that friction zone. And I start opening it until I see where it bites. Then I put my hand right, I pull it in a little, and now I'm right before it. That's all I need. As far as the throttle, I know I'm gonna keep it loaded. I'm listening to it. So as long as I have those two things, I know that bike won't drop. So now I can kind of work everything else out, get used to it, get acclimated. But as far as power to the rear wheel, I know that as long as I have that and it's sufficient and I address it, whatever I feel, I address it as soon as I feel it, it's a small movement. So stopping your motorcycle smoothly, in my opinion, it's the bread and butter to doing everything slow speed. Especially when I make you do it 15 feet, it's a short distance. Because now it's all on you. Stopping the motorcycle is not just stopping the motorcycle, if you know what you're doing. So, tell me your name. Brian. Brian, if you're coming to a stop on your motorcycle and you're getting near the end of that stop, you no longer need power. Do you pull the clutch in and just let the bike coast into the stop? Do you?
Yes, I do.
Yes, everybody does. I do it too, because I don't need the power anymore. But what happens when you get to the end of that stop and the handlebars start doing this? How am I going to correct that?
I usually put my feet down.
Exactly. That's what most people do. He said, I usually put my feet down. What should he do? He's got to go back into the friction zone. We already talked about what keeps the bike up. And remember, if your intention is to go straight and your handlebars are turning, that's the start of a fall. And so if once you feel that, if you correct it as soon as you feel it, boom. But we're braking at the same time, rear brake, rear brake. Of course, we're preloaded. We never engage the clutch without the preload. 3 comes before 4. So I'm coming to the stop. I'm gonna show you guys in a second. And as I'm coming to the stop, I don't always need this. Sometimes the balance of the motorcycle works out, but you don't need it. And when I'm doing this with people, I can recognize when it worked out or recognize when they had to make it work out. So I always tell them, I don't want your handlebars straight as an arrow when you come to a stop. Because if you stop like that, I know speed helped you out. Momentum helped you out. So I want them going so slow that I see this and then work that out. Because that's the uh-oh moment. We have to create that uh-oh moment so that we don't feel it all the time. We're gonna callous it, right? So I'm coming to a stop. As soon as I start feeling this, I'm gonna start opening my clutch. And I know this is counterintuitive. That's why people go, what? I'm trying to stop, but I'm opening the clutch? Yes, I'm not opening it a lot. I'm opening it to get the bike to stand up. But I'm on the rear brake at the same time, and I'm progressively braking. Brake, 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 brake. And again, I tell people all the time, we're gonna be in our feelings today. We have to do based on what we feel. Everything is our feelings. I feel scared, that's the feeling. So, friction zone, if I feel it starting to go out, go open it a little bit more, brake, 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 foot down, then I pull the clutch in. And when I say foot down, I want you to stop your goal every time you stop your motorcycle from today on. Like that, or like this in stride. Anything else is unacceptable. That's how I want you to feel. Because listen, if you've been riding for a long time, how many times have you stopped? Like, we should be experts at stopping because there's no way around it. You have to do it. But if you don't have the proper technique, then blah, blah, blah. I'm giving it to you today, though. It is the friction zone. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, friction zone. And sometimes I record my guys doing it all the time, guys and gals. And I watch them coming to and when they get to the end of the stop, I see them pull the clutch in. The bike is still rolling. And then the stop is like this. It doesn't take much. As soon as you take the power away, it's going to start falling. So you have to stay in that friction zone all the way until you put your foot down. Then pull it in. Watch. By the way, I get on the motorcycle from the high side. If you guys want instruction on that, I give it to you, but it's just way easier. Especially if you got a backrest, tour pack, a passenger. I got bad hips. I don't have time to be trying to kick my leg up high and clear stuff. Scrapes on the saddlebag. No. I got a video on that, and it's done very well because it's helped out a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. All right. First gear, check. Cover the rear brake. Reload. That's good. Clutch, I'm gonna bring it right before the friction zone, right there, so I'm good. Slowly open it as soon as it starts to move. Foot up. Friction zone, but I'm on the rear brake too. You hear the throttle is steady. I'm just using the rear brake now. Right there, I felt like it was gonna fall, opened up the clutch. That's all this is, guys. But a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Is the circus in town? Negative. It's just me riding in the friction zone. But using the rear brake with the friction zone, friction zone, friction zone. Smooth stop, smooth stop. Boom, now I pull the clutch in. So whenever we do these things, I'm always looking at people's front suspension. And I don't want any compression when you stop. That's how smooth I want that stop to be. If it's doing this, what's happening is when people are stopping, they wait until they get to the cone, then put the brakes on. Well, of course it's going to be abrupt then. It has to be gradual. But what it is they want speed to help them out. And I feel bad for people sometimes. Please let me use the speed, Rob. No, you don't need it. Trust me, you don't need it. And so another thing practicing gives us, guys, is options. Your options are limited to your skill level. So we're talking about that tool belt again. Sometimes the options are based on emergency stuff. Sometimes it's simple stuff. Like for instance, if one of you guys were on this side of the fence and your bike was here and you had to move it, what are you gonna do? Most people are gonna back it up. That's why you always hear people talk about the gas station. Because in the gas station, you can only do slow speed stuff. So that's duck walk city. By the way, I use the term duck walk and not to be, again, my goal is never to make anybody feel less than. We don't make fun of people, none of that stuff. But it's a term, everybody knows what it means. And it's gonna get to a point where that's not gonna be your option anymore because now you have other options. So again, I started telling you this, guys, in Tennessee, we're on this group ride. Roads canted, 22 feet. About 150 of us, roads closed. So now we gotta make a U-turn. Oh, guys, you gotta go check out this video. Practice session number 104, I talk about it, and I show some B-roll of it. And in that moment, I was like, here we go. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to options. Out of 150, roughly, maybe 10 people were able to make that U-turn. Myself, 3 of my ambassadors, and a few of my followers. Everybody else, oh, it was a disaster. A disaster, because think about this. You're trying to duck walk, the road's like this, the bike's H-E-A-V-Y, because we don't use that word, because once you start focusing on that, then that's all you can think about, right? But again, options. I did another video where on the thumbnail, I'm on a road and there's a grizzly bear behind me. And the title of that video is "A U-Turn Can Save Your Life," because it can. If I'm riding my motorcycle, when it happened, I was riding the Dragon, and then I came to a stop. 2 black bears are on the road. So in my mind, I came to a stop, and I'm already ready. If they come toward me, I'm making a U-turn. They never came toward me, but I know how many people would have just jumped off that bike and ran. Because making a U-turn, it's not even a thought in their mind to do so. All right? Okay. Now, I want to do that again, guys, the smooth stop, because this time I want to just ride towards you without doing that. I'm going to come towards you. I'm going to have the clutch all the way in. I'm just going to be coasting. And then at the end, you're going to hear my throttle go up. And if you hear that, that means I'm going to start opening my clutch. Friction zone, and I'm working it out. I'm basing it on what I feel. Friction zone, rear brake. This is always my goal. It's not going to always happen, but it should happen more than it doesn't. You know what I mean? We're not robots. We make mistakes. That's why we always cover in the rear brake, because the rear brake gives us correction and control. Correction and control. For instance, I'm this close to you guys. I'm going to make a turn. I'm clearly not going to start this just with clutch, because I'm not perfect. What if I open the clutch a little bit too much? And now I'm into the fence. I'm creating a situation that doesn't have to be. So what am I gonna do? Follow those first 5 steps, preload the throttle. I'm gonna open the clutch into the friction zone with already applying pressure to the rear brake, right from the start. Not a lot of pressure, just enough. Preload, clutch, I'm on the brake, foot up. All right. Clutch in. See, it's already wavering. Friction zone, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. Smooth. Now I pull the clutch in. There's no way in hell you're going to be able to stop this bike that smooth at that speed without the friction zone. But this is the ingredient that people miss. And so because they don't have that, stopping the motorcycle is terrifying. Terrifying, especially with somebody on the back. And if you think, what's the big deal? Riding 2 up, I never have an issue. A guy that was not subscribed to my channel, all of his buddies were telling him to watch, come to a practice session. I'm good. He pulls in front of his house. He stops, and you don't have to have the handlebars turned much. Remember, we always stop with the bike squared. He had the handlebars turned this much. He felt falling, front brake, it compresses the front suspension. The bike's heavy, he's vertically challenged. The bike drops, she breaks her hip. Now, can you imagine? Now he's like, yeah, man, I got to come to one of your classes. He showed me the video. It was caught on his home surveillance, so that's even worse. But anyway, we shouldn't wait until we get hurt or somebody gets hurt before we say, hey, let me try to learn how to actually ride these damn things, right? Okay, so now I'm going to do the short starts and stops. And again, the difficult part of this is because I'm limited in space. I'll start at that first cone and stop at this last cone. Now, what I normally get with this is I tell people don't pass the cone, smooth start, smooth stop. Okay, Rob. Speed. I go, handlebar, straight as an arrow. Start out slow. So sometimes when you start out slow, we talked about this, if I start out slow and my handlebars start turning, what's happening? That's the start of a fall, right. So if you don't even want to, if you want to get past that and don't have to worry about it, just do an open close. I'm referring to your clutch. Open close, all it's doing is this. Don't open close, open close. You're getting the bike to stand up past that falling feeling. Again, this is another one of those examples where you don't need much, right? Open close, I'm gonna do it right in front of you. Just to get the bike to stand up. Open close, good, I'm good. Friction zone, smooth stop. Open close, you don't have to always do it. That's the beauty of this. Everything that we learn, you don't need it all the time. But when you need it, it's there, if you practice. All right, smooth start, smooth stop. Go over here. I'm on the rear brake, throttle's the same, clutch is the same. I'm just using the rear brake. They're working together. All right, that's enough of that. Friction zone, rear brake. That's when this is really relevant, coming out of a turn. So, here's the question. How many of you guys have heard the term, I had to lay her down? I'm talking about a motorcycle. Had to lay her down, right? I just want to be clear. So, I used to go, no, that's not true. You didn't have to lay her down. But that is true. I told you our options are limited to our skill level. So if this person has nothing in the tool belt, what else am I going to do? What are you going to do if you're in a turn? I'm not talking about at speed. You just start, or you just come out of a turn. You're in the lean, and now you see something, and you need to stop. How are you going to deal with that? Do you ride a motorcycle? How about you?
Release the clutch and look where you want to go.
You're going to release the clutch and look where you want to go. How's that going to upright the bike? Well, releasing the clutch will do that. Yeah, you're right. Anybody got another answer than that?
Straighten it out.
How are you going to straighten it out?
Straighten it out.
It's in the lean. Say it again.
Friction zone.
Yep,
Stand
friction zone. We talked about it first. What does the motorcycle always want to do with power to the rear wheel? It wants to stand up and go straight. So if I'm in a lean and I need to get out of that lean, this is the counterintuitive thing. Most people go, oh crap, brake. Had to lay her down. The bike is just going to fall if you do that. Friction zone. That means I need to go back into the friction zone. That's going to give the bike, that's going to allow me to straighten it out, but rear brake at the same time. Friction zone, rear brake, rear brake. And that's what I'm doing when I'm coming out of that turn. I'm in the friction zone. I'm dragging my rear brake, until I can get that bike upright. It feels good to me. Okay, start putting my foot down. It's a coordination thing too. Okay. If you guys have questions, we can do it at the end or in the middle. It doesn't matter. And let me tell you something, guys. These fine gentlemen over here, what do you guys do, 20 minutes? Yeah, they do like 20 minutes for their thing. Clearly, Harley Davidson watches my videos because I get an hour. I don't make short videos. And I'm primarily talking about the practice session videos. The practice session videos, like I said, are people, all walks of life, all different skill levels. And I show that practice session in its entirety. So some of those videos are 4 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours. And I tell people all the time, the investment is time. It's free. It's free. Watch the videos. Trust me, you're going to learn from them. Because we all learn differently, different things appeal to us. So what kind of motorcycle do you ride? Road Glide ST. If somebody's in a practice session riding a Road Glide ST, CVO? Oh, if somebody's riding a Road Glide ST and they got a beard, he's going to be paying more attention to them just because he has that in common, right? Female riders, oh, forget about it. If a female rider's in any of my practice sessions, they're the star of the show, and I let them know that because they appeal to everyone. If they're riding a bagger type motorcycle, or any type really, but they have a good control of it, they're the boss of that motorcycle, it's a girl power thing. You have to see when the other females are out there. Woo! And then a guy does something good. Yeah, okay, right? So it's inspiring. A man sees it, and now it's an ego check. Oh my God, I got to get my stuff together. But I always say I don't care what inspires you as long as you practice, right? All right. So my goal is to start at this cone, stop at the last cone, but do it all smooth, nothing herky-jerky. First gear, cover the rear brake. I'm going to preload this throttle. Slowly release the clutch. I'm on the brake from the start. Friction zone. I'm in the friction zone, friction zone. Rear brake, rear brake, rear brake, rear brake. Smooth stop. Now I pull the clutch in. Only way I can do that all the time, smooth, I got to have power on that rear wheel. I don't need a lot. So that's what I want you to know. When we're nervous, everything is big, big movements. I get it. But it's like anything else. Somebody that doesn't know how to dance, everything is big and sloppy looking. And once they get it, it smooths out. That's why this is slow dancing with the bike. All right. I want to talk to you guys about trust and believe. Who's familiar with trust and believe? The exercise. Oh, I love it. Love it, love it. Let me turn this bike around. Now I'm going to turn this bike around. I'm not going to lean. I'm going to do everything straight up. Because when my practice sessions, the first 4 things we do, we're straight up and down. No turning, no leaning. Because again, this right here, when people say, I just need help with a U-turn, and we come to do this, I'm here an hour and a half with them, 2 hours. There is a direct correlation between not feeling comfortable doing this and making a U-turn. If you don't feel comfortable just going straight, slowly, how could you be expected to feel comfortable leaning? But what I will say about that is, leaning is always going to give you more comfort because the only way we can lean, we need what? Speed. Without speed, the bike's going to fall. Anytime you have speed, you have assistance. So if we're going to do stuff straight up, that's why my highest failure rate exercise is exercise number 4. Right turns, left turns from a stop. Because it's all on you, and now you got to turn. Oh my God, don't mention full lock. Motorcycle riders don't like those terms, those words, full lock. But nothing changes, guys. All right. Foot up. Head nice. Clutch. Clutch. Rear brake. A little bit of rear brake. Just a little. Head nice. Rear brake. Clutch. All I'm doing is basing stuff on what I feel. If everything's working out, I just keep it there. Like right here, everything's working out just fine. So the clutch, I can keep it right here. I'm applying little bits of pressure on the rear brake. If I come off the rear brake, I can still do this, but now I have to do more stuff with my clutch. I got to be kind of perfect with it, right? See how the handlebars are kind of trying to straighten out? That means I'm going too fast. It always wants to go straight, guys. So if you're trying to make a turn and you're like, damn, why can't I make this turn? Even if you think you're going slow, you're going too fast for the speed you're going, or what you're trying to do as far as turning the handlebars. All right, let me straighten out. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, rear brake. Smooth stop. Let's talk about trust and believe. What's your name, buddy? Yep. Mark. Do you trust and believe that as long as you provide sufficient power to this rear wheel, the bike won't fall? You trust and believe it? Who here trust and believe it? Raise your hand if you trust and believe it. As long as you provide sufficient power to the rear wheel, the bike won't fall. Most of the times, when people raise their hands, they're full of shit. Most of the time. And I understand you're answering the question based on intellect. You intellectually believe it. But if I put you on the bike and tell you to do what I'm about to do, you're going to put a foot down. If you put your foot down anytime you feel falling, you don't trust it. You don't believe it. You might believe it, but you don't trust it. Okay, so in this exercise, as extreme as it may seem, it's not. It just isn't, but it's here. First gear, cover the rear brake, preload the throttle. Clutch. We're going to bring the clutch, like I said, right before the friction zone. Step number 5, you're going to pick up your left foot. I don't want the bike moving a millimeter. When you feel it starting to fall, open your clutch and then come to a smooth stop because we still got to be in control. This exercise is designed to reprogram your brain to associate falling with this. This is the answer. And I get people up here. So I kind of took it away of them deciding when to pick their foot up, because this is supposed to mimic an uh-oh moment. And uh-oh moments aren't planned. So I say foot up. When I say foot up, pick your foot up. I tell them, don't think about it. Pick up your foot. Now, sometimes you can pick up your foot and the balance of the motorcycle is just working out where you're just sitting there. That's fine. Eventually, it's going to start falling. As soon as you feel it, address it. That's trust and believe. Now, so I'm going to demonstrate it for you guys. The first time I do it, I'm going to address it as soon as I feel it. If I do that, small movement, no big deal. Next, I'm going to wait a little bit longer, right? Now, of course, now I'm going to have to make sure my clutch is open more. I'm even going to throttle because now this no longer sufficient. The only difference with the two is when I'm waiting and when I'm not. Who's going to yell foot up? Who's volunteering for the foot up? Who's volunteering for the foot up? Okay. Make sure you say it so I can hear it. I got this damn helmet on. All right. First gear, covering the rear brake. Of course, my head and my eyes are straight ahead. I'm going to preload this throttle. That's enough preload. I feel good about that. Clutch, right before the friction zone, and you better be right before that friction zone because I need this power right away. All right, I'm ready. Smooth stop. Now right there, I addressed it as soon as I felt it. Now he's going to say foot up. I'm going to say screw you. I do it when I'm ready. I'm going to wait a little while. All right, first gear, covering the rear brake. Clutch. All right. Nah, I don't like that one. I can wait longer than that. I was too close to that cone. Ah, this is more like it. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, friction zone. Straighten out. Always practicing, guys. Always practicing. And I'm guaranteeing you, you get that down, just coming to a stop. People are going to look at you like, oh, you used to be a motor officer? No, not everybody that's a motor officer can ride well. You need to know that. I work with them, and there were guys that would put those cones out. Hey, guys, you want to go practice? No, I'm good, Lou. That's the same guys that's screwing up my patterns in Times Square. I'll tell you guys about that later. Oh, man. All right. First gear, covering the rear brake. Reload. Clutch. Head nice straight ahead. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, friction zone. Rear brake. Now, trust and believe is something that I don't want you practicing that in traffic, okay? But it is always relevant in traffic. Anytime you ride your motorcycle, trust and believe is relevant because all trust and believe is I felt something, I'm gonna do something, right? And if I do it as soon as I feel it, it's a small movement. And so when we talk about options, right here, if I want to turn this bike around, you know, as far as my options are concerned, I can either do this straight up or I can just fall into a turn. Three things determine the radius of a turn on the motorcycle. Give me one. Speed, number one contributing factor to wide turns. Give me another one. Three things determine the radius of a,
Eyes looking the wrong direction.
I'm going to give you an honorable mention for eyes.
Head looking the wrong direction.
What determines the radius of a turn on a motorcycle? Speed, lean angle, handlebar turn, right? So if I'm going to turn from here, clearly speed's not an issue. I have to be going slow. Handlebar turns, the further I turn them, tighter that turn's going to be. But if I need that turn to be even tighter, what do I have to introduce? Lean. Well, how do I introduce lean if the bike's not moving? Anyone? Bueller? I have to let the bike fall, just like I did in Trust and Believe. And as it starts to fall, catch it with the clutch. Now, in my opinion, that's the scary Trust and Believe, because the bike's leaning now from a start. You guys want to see that?
Yeah.
It's not really necessary all the time, but I'll do it from back there. All right. Reload. I like the way that sounds. So I'm going to keep that sound right there. Rear brake, rear brake. All right, now I can come off the brake. I'm good. Smooth stop. I want to come over to you guys. Start with the handlebars turn. Reload. Get that clutch right before the friction zone. Let it start falling. it always wants to stand up and go straight. But I understand why something like that would be scary for somebody. But I'm at the point where I know, I trust it. I know it's not gonna fall. And so the reason why I did it the first time, addressing it right away, and then the second time waiting, is because I want you to know, don't give up. Like if the bike's falling, keep trying, keep opening up that damn clutch, get it open, because it's gonna stand up. Like these bikes have a tip protection now where these guys are actually talking to you about it, where if you tip it over, it'll shut off, it shuts off the fuel. But if it didn't have that, you can pick one of these bikes up off the ground just by throttling it. How many of you guys seen a video where the guy fell off the bike and the bike is just going, right? This is what I mean when I say the bike doesn't need you at higher speeds. But at lower speeds, you know, you have to be the boss. You have to be the boss. So trust and believe, like I said, is always relevant. If you see me moving very slowly, you know what, I forgot I got this mic on. I can actually talk to you while I'm doing it. And remember, I want to be very light on this rear brake. I don't want to be too heavy. I don't want the bike bouncing and bouncing. Preload, I like the way that sounds. Foot up, see how it's straightened out? Open up the clutch too quick. It always wants to go straight. So now I'm gonna pull the clutch in a little bit right here. Rear brake, I'm just dragging the brake, dragging it. And so forget about turning. This same thing is true when we're going straight. If you guys are sitting in traffic, that's a perfect time to practice slow ride. Friction zone, friction zone, friction zone. If I'm gonna stop, friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, friction zone, rear brake, smooth stop, clutch in. Gotta keep that clutch out all the way until you put your foot down. That's gonna ensure that it's a smooth stop, smooth stop. So, right turns, left turns from a stop, the biggest failure rate. Let me go over here and do it. Yeah, even that turn right there. I look at the cones, I say, hey, I wanna go through there, but I'm not gonna be able to fit through there just by turning the handlebars. So, I gotta throw the bike into a lean, but the friction zone is gonna catch it, right? Clearly, I'm not in the same level of the friction zone approaching as I am turning. I'm approaching friction zone. When I go to make it, open it up some more, throttle. Rear brake. All of these things work together. Friction zone, friction zone, I'm sorry. I didn't ask this in the beginning. Does everyone know what the friction zone is? Okay, excellent. I did a practice session and this guy asked me 2 hours in, what's the friction zone? I was like, God damn, what I've been talking about for 2 hours. No wonder you're looking at me with your brow frowned. It's like, what is he talking about? All right. So the exercise is, people are supposed to roll up and make a left turn, but keep the bike straight up. No leaning. Now they don't have to do it like this, but that's the point. That's what they have to do. And they're turning, smooth stop. They're turning into 7.5 feet, right turns and left turns. And how do I do that? I have them do it just going straight through. If I see even a little bit of lean, I stop them. You're leaning. If you're leaning, it's telling me you're going too fast. But Rob, I was going slow. Trust me, that's why I record these things. That's the benefit of these practice sessions. People get to go back and watch it and go, ah. All right, so straight up, like I told you, it's all on you the slower you go. Then I have them stop. And I always tell them I stop right here if the turn's here, but they can stop any place behind it. They can come over here, it's fine. And then I have them stop, make the turn and stop, because we have to practice coming to that smooth stop coming out of a turn. It's the highest failure rate out of everything I do. I got an 18-foot circle at the top of my snowman, but that's the highest failure rate. Why? Motorcycle riders, I told you before, we know how to go fast and make slight turns. That's what we do. That's why there's no real thought put into the kind of handlebars I buy. This is fine, because I can still do this. But if I actually learn how to ride and I got to actually turn, shit, I can't reach the clutch. They're not practical, right? So the more you learn, it starts changing a whole bunch of things, right? About the practicality of your motorcycle and how much you really enjoy it. Who here loves riding a motorcycle? Man, you're gonna love it even more when you learn how to ride it slow. Because again, as a matter of fact, some people, once you get over that hump of fear and intimidation, they like this more because it's just involving you more. It's more of a challenge to you. So in my U-turn box, 24 feet, I give them 27, but my goal is for them to be at 24. Can everybody here make a 24-foot U-turn? Yeah, I know, because you said you're addicted to U-turns. That's another thing too. When people get this, I know guys, his friends call him U-turn now. Can't stop making U-turns, right? But the beauty of this is, once you get this, it's gonna change your lens. You're gonna really realize how many people around you don't know how to actually ride a motorcycle properly. That's why group rides are so scary. Because if it's 100 people in that group ride, maybe one of them knows what they're doing. So it's going to change that. It's going to change the way you hear things as far as your motorcycle. I tell people, give me a preload. They go, there you go, Rob. Give me some more. I'm not charging you for the preload. There you go, Rob. Because in their mind, they're like, it sounds like it's too high. No, it's not. But they have to get the ear for that, right? And also, it's going to you're going to feel compelled to share the information that you have, the skill that you have. And I tell people all the time, I'm one guy with a YouTube channel. Just so many people I can reach, but it's happening. Like my YouTube channel right now is, it's like a movement at this point. And it started with the motorcycle instruction, and of course it's still that, but it's the positivity. I have a Facebook group, it's a private group, so there's none of that. It's so much positivity that every now and then if some negativity or negative comment tries to infiltrate, it doesn't last. They can't make it. Negativity is trying to poison it, and when they see they can't get any traction, they move on, right? It's just an amazing group of people. And keep in mind, are you the boss of your motorcycle? Well, let me ask you this. Average, above, or below? Are you an above average, below average, or average motorcycle rider? You're average. Average? 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 Above? Average?
By my standards, average. By your standards, below average.
No, you'd be surprised. Average? Below. Okay. I want you guys, when you get a chance, go to my YouTube channel, when you leave here tonight, whatever. I did a video, and it's called, Are You an Average Motorcycle Rider? So I want you to think about this. The average height, shit, I'm going to ruin the video now. Okay. The average height of a man in the United States is 5 feet 9 inches. Now, how did they come up with that number? They're going to pick the majority, and if the majority of people are 5'9", that's the average. Anybody above 5'9", above average height. Anybody below 5'9", below average height. So when we talk about a motorcycle, I already told you 98% of the motorcycle riding population really doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle. So that's the average. So if you said you're below average, you're not. You're average. Below average is somebody brand new, they don't know anything, right? You're average. Now, anything else, in my opinion, it's fine to be average. Not this. Not in this country. And I say this country because if you go to Europe, Canada, I had a guy come to my New Jersey session from Canada. He told me it takes them almost 3 weeks to get an endorsement. 3 days here. And that's if they decide to do it. How many people you know have been riding on a permit for decades? Like it's not prioritized here, safety, as far as knowing how to ride them. I don't want to use the word safety because then people get into, but it's not only going to make you safer, it's going to make you enjoy it more. As simple as that. Nobody is going to enjoy riding a motorcycle every time you slow down. Oh God, oh God, oh God. You look at a gravel road. Oh God, oh God, oh God. No. So, all right. U-turns. Here's what I'm going to tell you about U-turns. Again, I don't want people to just start run out and jumping and doing U-turns. I want you to start with the short starts and stops. I want you to be comfortable and confident. Smooth start, smooth stop. That's what I want you to be comfortable with. Then I want you to ride the bike slowly in the friction zone without the brake. Have somebody walk next to you, because that's what I do, at a regular walking pace, and don't pass them. That means all you're using is the clutch. Open, close, like I told you before. If you open up the clutch and keep it open too long, you're going to pass that person, all right? Open, close. I want you to get comfortable with that. And lastly, trust and believe. Practice that, trust me, because that uh-oh feeling is what we have to generate, and then we have to learn how to deal with it. And again, if you deal with it right away, it's not a big deal. It's such a small thing. All right, so if we talk about all of that, U-turns. So the main issue I have with U-turns with people is when they go to make the U-turn, they're coming up. First of all, forget about it, no head and eyes. As a matter of fact, that scenario I gave you is from a real event of turning, seeing something, and dropping the bike. I know for a fact that if he was looking through that turn, he would have never committed to the lean in that turn. So we have to be comfortable picking our head and eyes up. I want you to know it is unnatural feeling to turn your head and your eyes and turn the handlebars. Even though nothing, our hands, and it's just what we want to do when we feel up. We want to look down. I get it. That also takes practice. You have to get accustomed to that. Trust me, it's going to help you. You know how many times I'm telling somebody, turn, turn. And I say, look at me. As soon as they look at me, the handlebars do this. Head and eyes. So when people are making U-turns, either they're coming up too slow, but even if their speed's good, Head knives, handlebars. As soon as I go head knives, handlebars, they slow down. Now if they slow down, they can't lean. Or there's a reluctancy to lean the motorcycle and turn the handlebars. So I tell people all the time, 24 feet. Here's how you get in 24 feet, very easy. We talked about what keeps the bike up, right? Sufficient power to the rear wheel. So as I'm approaching that U-turn, I'm gonna be in the friction zone. That's where I'm getting everything together. Throttle, I hear it, it's good. Set it and forget it. Clutch, I'm in the friction zone. My speed's appropriate. Set it and forget it. Now all I have to do is turn my head and my eyes. And when I turn my handlebars, turn them like I got a pair, and lean the bike right away. Nothing excessive. And that's how you get in 24 feet. If you commit to the lean right away, you don't need that much lean. You don't need that much handlebar turn. Commit to the lean and the handlebar turns right away. And then hold it. Drag the rear brake. What happens is people get into a U-turn and then they start changing stuff. Pulling in the clutch, letting out the clutch, screwing around with the brake, doing this with the handlebars. Now the turn's getting wider and wider. We know what keeps the bike up, right? So if we know what keeps the bike up, just keep that. Turn the handlebars, lean, and trust it's not gonna fall. You're leaning the bike, you're controlling it. If it's leaning and it's leaning too much, that just means you need to open the clutch a little bit. That's all. All right, I got it. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. You're making a left turn. The bike is straight up. The handlebars are left. And all of a sudden, the bike is starting, you're going slowly, very slowly. The bike is starting to fall to the right. How do you correct that? Yeah, all right, you know what? I'll show you. See, I just gave your brain some time off. You don't have to visualize anything. I'm gonna show you. Preload, clutch, foot up. And I put those 5 steps on it because a lot of times people don't know what to do. If you give them steps to follow, it makes it easier, and then eventually those steps just disappear. Okay, head knives, I'm making the left turn, I'm straight up, and then all of a sudden the bike starts to fall this way. How do I correct that? He said throttle. Anybody agree? Anybody disagree? Throttle? Open the clutch, that's the same thing, power. Okay, here's the counterintuitive stuff again. It's the opposite. Because if I'm turning left, and my handlebars are left, and I'm going left, and then all of a sudden my bike is starting to go to the right. This is what I mean when I say we don't need a lot to affect this when we're going slow. You have too much power on that rear wheel. It's trying to go straight. That's why it's falling this way. So in that case, pull the clutch in. As soon as you pull it in, boom, right back, and then let it back out so you're good. But it's a point of no return, so you gotta make sure you address it as soon as you feel it, and you're good, all right? So when I'm making the U-turn, I'm gonna close on this, guys, allegedly. Told you I'm a talker. All right, reload, clutch, foot up, on the rear brake, in the friction zone on the rear brake, off the rear brake, just clutch right here. I'm gonna turn, friction zone, rear brake. So if I'm coming to make this U-turn, friction zone, rear brake, head and knife, commit, and just hold it there. Commit. Oh, listen to my throttle, nothing's changed. My clutch hand is the same. Look at my clutch hand, it's the same. There's no reason to change a lot. So I tell people all the time, right now, look at my clutch hand. I'm making this turn, clutch is the same. I'm just using the rear brake. Rear brake. Clutch is the same. Clutch is the same. Clutch is the same. I'm straight up. Now I'm gonna make a U-turn. Clutch is the same. Just keep the clutch where it is. Listen to the throttle. It's steady. Steady. I got a little bit of pressure on the rear brake, but I can come off the rear brake. Just gotta have a little bit more clutch control right here. No rear brake. It started getting wider, so I'm gonna pull the clutch in just a little bit here. Tighten it up. And just hold it there till I feel something. If I feel something I don't like, I'm gonna open it up a little bit. If I open it a lot, that's what's gonna happen. But that's why I'm covering the rear brake. If I open it up a little too much, rear brake, correction and control. That's what it gives us. Guys, listen, it would definitely behoove yourself. I'm not, you know, kissing myself. I know this because I know it, because it's helped so many people. Go to YouTube, watch my videos. If you're new to my channel, I have a playlist called Start Here. And it's just gonna catch you up on all the terminology that we use that's gonna help. And then eventually, watch a practice session. Don't be surprised if you're sitting there watching it for hours. It's almost like a reality show because you're watching people in real time improve. You're watching their confidence go up. You're looking at how happy they are. I love that feeling of seeing somebody get it. And when do they get it? that smooth start and stop. When they're able to stop that bike smoothly, they go, I felt it. And once you feel like you don't want to go back. Any questions, guys? Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.